We return now to our top story. The Trump administration is pushing to secure a peace deal to end the war in Ukraine. But what that looks like and whether Russia is willing to accept it are still open questions. President Trump wrote in part on Truth Social, quote, "Over the past week, my team has made tremendous progress with respect to ending the war between Russia and Ukraine." He adds the original 28-point peace plan, which was drafted by the United States, has been fine-tuned with additional input from both sides, and there are only a few remaining points of disagreement. While this is happening, Putin remains on the offensive. The Russian military launched strikes on the Ukrainian capital of Kyiv overnight, killing at least 7 people. Ian Bremmer joins us now. He's the president and founder of the Eurasia Group and G0 Media. Ian, thanks for being here. Is there anything different about this moment?
Well, you've had a lot of negotiations, but honestly, we're not much closer to a ceasefire because the Russians and the Americans can agree on a deal. The Ukrainians and the Americans can agree on a deal, but those deals don't overlap. They are not compatible. And Russia is not prepared to accept anything close to what the Ukrainians are capable of putting on the table.
Is there any pressure on Vladimir Putin to cut a deal right now? Hasn't his plan the whole time been to play the long game, try and break Ukraine down over time?
Yes and yes. That has been his plan, and there is pressure. There's been over 1 million Russian casualties in this war. And the war is certainly impacting the economy. We are starting to see budgetary difficulties, growth slowing down, revenues really taking a hit. But this isn't going to prevent the Russians from feeling like they can continue to throw everything they have at the Ukrainians for the near to medium term future. I mean, I don't see in the next 1 to 2 years, unless the Ukrainians were capable of dramatically stepping up their attacks inside Russia with help from the United States, or the United States was willing to put sanctions that would really prevent the Russians from exporting oil. And while those two things have moved a bit in the next few weeks with help from President Trump, not enough that the Russians feel like they need to actually compromise in any way.
And you've said this more than likely will get resolved on the battlefield. Doesn't that put Ukraine at a disadvantage? Where does the fighting stand right now? Who has the advantage?
Yes, it does put the Ukrainians at a disadvantage, and most Ukrainians want to end the war, but they're not prepared to end the war completely on Russian terms, which is what the 28-point plan provided. The Ukrainians are losing territory. They're not losing territory quickly. A lot of civilians are getting killed by Russian targeting, and Ukraine is going to be relying on imports of energy this cold winter season because the Russians have blown up a lot of their electricity and heating capacity. That's where we are. This absolutely is worse for Ukraine and worse for, of course, the Russians fighting the longer it goes on. But you still need a deal that the Ukrainians are capable of accepting. And what the Russians are putting on the table is not meant for the Ukrainians to accept. What Putin is trying to do is to basically split the Americans from the Europeans. He wants to weaken NATO. He doesn't expect that the Ukrainians are going to accept anything he offers. That's not the intention of his negotiating strategy.
All right, Ian Bremmer, thank you.
My pleasure.